Today we're going to be covering case management in VisualDLP. We've created this cloud-based solution to help you manage work coming into the lab throughout the production process, and then shipping it efficiently back to your customers. So we're going to go over some features that we feel help manage that workflow. Again, as I said, if you have any questions, you can use the chat feature. If you have trouble finding that, go to the meeting controls. Under More on mine, there's a chat menu item, so don't hesitate to use that during the demo today if you have any questions. So what you're looking at is the dashboard in VisualDLP. This is the order management module. This is where I'd say you spend most of the time in managing orders, accounts, products, invoicing, billing. All is done from the order management module. And you can see on the screen I have here, I've got units in so far this month, invoices this month, remakes, a couple other graphics give you a snapshot of what's going on in the lab, order shipping today. And you can drill into each of these to see which specific orders make up what is shipping today. Going down the left-hand side, we've got a standard menu layout, dashboard orders, you have menu headers and submenus. And then at the top of the screen, we have some other menu items. There's a quick search if you wanted to search for a doctor or an account. Also, you could schedule a pickup, add an account note, create a proposal. We have a feedback mechanism in here, so if you want to send that feedback to us, and of course, log out and then return to the Launchpad to access other modules. So as far as case management, order management, we really wanted to build an interface that was easy to search, easy to find what you were looking for. So we started with the premise that sometimes you're going to have misspelled names in patients. They're have to interpret it and then maybe not spell it correctly. So when you're searching for orders, we've added some technology that makes it easy to find an order, even if it's misspelled. So I can see in my list, this is my order list of all the cases that have been in the lab or that in the lab. You can see the status, in production, ordered, invoice. But I can see that I have a Mark Smith on here. So if I were to search for Mark Smith, I expect to be able to find that, which I do. But if you misspelled Mark, for some reason they typed it in with a K instead of a C, searching for that also returns that. And that's because they sound similar. So our search algorithm uses the sound of the name or of the text that you typed in and compares that to what it finds in the database and returns possible matches. One nice thing is if you have more information, if you know the doctor, you can you can string search results together. So I knew, we did a patient Mark at some point for Dr. O'Leary. So I know O'Leary is with an O, so I don't even need to complete it. I could just put an O in there, and I'm going to get Mark for O'Leary, Dr. O'Leary, or the account O'Leary in this case. So that's a nice way to quickly find what you're looking for. As an aside, we do, when we do a data conversion or we onboard a new customer, we do have the option available of importing your history. So if you have case history in your current lab management software and you want to bring that over, we can import that, and that is searchable the same way. It shows up a little different in the search results. The status would be archived, and you would be able to pull that up and see what you did for the patient, or what the appliance or the restoration was, the date, the total invoice, some basic information about that, and we can pull all that in from your current lab management software. So something we spent a lot of time working on to make it easy to find what you're looking for, because I think all of you in the lab would agree that that's one of the most frequent questions you get. The doctor's office calling and looking up a case. They want to know it's going to come back on time. So you want to quickly be able to search for that. Okay. Yes. Sorry, was there a question? Okay. Yeah, and feel free to ask questions during the demo. You're certainly welcome to chime in if you have anything you'd like me to elaborate on. So as I mentioned, search, you can put together strings. Oh, welcome. It looks like someone else just joined. So you can put together strings of text here to search for, and they don't even have to match exactly what you're looking for. So here's John, as I pointed out, misspelled. J-O-H-N, I searched for J-O-N and it found it. Now, if there's one result, it's going to automatically open that case up for you, and you'll then have access to the case. This is the order entry screen. This is where the case was entered originally. You can see the account, the doctor, the patient information, what PAN number it's in, prescription number, if there was one there, shade. Now, if I go back to order entry, I'd like to point out that if I'm searching, let's go back to search for Mark so we get more than one result. I don't have to open that order up in order to see what was done there. I can do a quick view by clicking this little eye here, and I can see that the case came in on 5/27, the shade was white, PFM on number 4. So there's a quick way to view that information, and I can actually search by the product too. So if I wanted to say Mark, so let's clear these results here. And I'm going to search MARC, and the doctor, the office said we did a PFM for them. So I can search that. I search for Mark and PFM, and sure enough, we get Mark and then the PFM. So there's some really nice search capability built in here. It's smart enough to know if the spelling isn't exactly right. And it's also designed to let you search by the tooth number, the product, or indeed the PAN number. So if you're looking for a specific PAN number that you worked on, so here's S1233, and there's the PAN number S1233. Okay. So while we're in the data entry screen, I want to point out a couple of things here. Sort of our legacy coming from, Genmar has been doing lab management software for over 36 years now. We started, believe it or not, in the DOS world, moved to Windows, and now Genmar VisualDLP is our cloud-based software. And so one of the things we learned over time is that speed of entry is key. Keeping people's hand on the keyboard accelerates, or it cuts down on the time it takes to enter a case. So we've created shortcut keys throughout the data entry process. And some of these are the same shortcut keys that we use in DL Plus, our legacy product. So to enter a new order, Alt F2, to add a product, Alt F5. It just makes it nice when you're entering cases to be able to hit something on your keyboard. I can type in the doctor name. It's going to find the matches. I can go straight to the patient information. So I'll take Jill Smith. Reference number, what PAN is it going in? Do we have a prescription number? What shade? And I'm doing all this from the keyboard. So the entire process can be managed from the keyboard. I don't have to reach for my mouse at all. Alt F5 gives me the order or the new product list. So I can type in a product code that I'm searching for. If I'm looking for a zirconia crown, I'm doing denture, whatever it might be, and then I can just tab over, hit my tooth number, unit price fills in. Here it says my workflow PFM. Well, that's not what I want. I want the removable workflow. That's my PFM or my full denture workflow. Any discounts that we may apply, and then I'll just save this order. And so it's telling me that there is one order with this doctor for this patient. So once this schedules, I can go open that up, and I'm getting a late order warning too because I didn't give it enough time. So the schedule tells me it's going to be completed on 6/10. The due date was 6/5, so that's a condition I need to be aware of. But here's what I'm interested in. Okay, we have a previous case for this doctor and patient. I can see what that is. Sure enough, Jill Smith, date in 6/3, PAN number. And if I click that, that'll take me to that order to review it. So right now I've scheduled this order. Couple of things I want to point out. If I were to put a PAN number in, like that, put PAN number 1233. So that's a PAN number that's in use. So that cuts down on the duplicate PAN numbers. So what it's looking at is there an uninvoiced or a case that's on hold right now that's using that same PAN number? And if I click the little I there, I can see, it's the same case we just looked at, S1233. So I would know that, hey, we've probably got this case, or at least that PAN in use, depending on how you manage your PANs. This patient finder certainly is good for if a case is on hold. So if I were to put this case on hold, I can put a reason, waiting. There you go. Waiting feedback from doc. So that's going to place this case on hold. You get a little indicator on here. If we were to go back to our order list, you're going to see that's in red, on hold. In fact, if I go search now for all our on hold cases, it'll tell me, I can see all the cases that are now listed as on hold in the system. So the search looks at not just patient, PAN number, product, shade, but it also looks at the status. So if I wanted to say, well, who are all my, what are my on hold cases for the my new account? So I just put partial match there. So that's going to open that one up because it found it. And then I could go look at the history. I could see that on April 7th, this case was placed on hold for waiting, or waiting for bleaching. So this history here gives us sort of the soup to nuts, what's happened to this case. It was created on April 7th. Patient was set to Dave Jones. Product was set to delivery. If you make any changes, you can see a product delivery fee was deleted. There was a discount added. So we do track the entire life cycle of this case through the history tab. Okay. So let's go back to our case we just entered and scheduled. Still going to be late. So let's say we make that call. They give us more time. We move the due date now out to the 11th. So we'll set the ship date as the 10th. Save that. Now the ship date can be automatically set based on the last task. So if your last task was a shipping task or a delivery task or something to that effect, you could do that. I think right now I've got mine to automatically set to null, so it's not going to do that. Or to no ship date, so it's not going to do that. The thing I want to point out here is that your schedule, step 1, 2, 3, 4, this is obviously for demo purposes. We allow you to set up your own tasks in the schedules. We do have some templates you could start with. So if you wanted to start with some of our removable, fixed, and ortho schedules, we could give you so you're not starting from scratch. But these are what we call workflows. So if I look at the schedule detail, I can see I'm doing a full denture using the removable workflow, and I have step 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these dates, the scheduled start and scheduled finish date, are basically built off of the removable workflow definition. And if I go over to production and click on workflows, here's my removable workflow. And I can see I've got step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. How many days do we allocate for that? Total production days is 3. And the schedule order is there to tell me in what order do I do it. Now, some of you may be asking, well, the order is obvious. It's step 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, what if you're going to do a product that has a separate schedule in parallel or sequentially? So we have built this so you can do complex case planning. If you're going to do part of the case and then you're going to send it to a partner or you're going to send it to another department, the schedule order becomes important because you want to allocate time in each of those areas for it to be done. Okay. So then when you build a schedule, then you assign it to products, and a product can actually have more than one schedule depending on your production techniques you want to implement. So you could have several ways of doing the same product, and that way you don't have to have multitudes of products just because you're changing one step in the process. You can actually build schedules around them. So we've got our case, we've scheduled it. Let's take this off hold now. So we'll take this case off hold, and of course that will also go into the history, who took it off hold and when. So this case has been scheduled. We're going to release it into production. So what I want to do now is I'm going to flip over to what we call the lab dashboard. And what this screen does is it tells us the activities due today, and I'm looking at just step 1 and 2. So this is designed to run in a work center. It could run on a laptop, a tablet, an iPad, an LCD monitor, wherever you'd like to put this. And you see it's going to refresh again in 15 seconds. I can always manually refresh it if I want to see. I can see I have 9 units due today, and that is the sum of the quantity in these cases. So I'm looking at step 1 in case number 1086 and 1089, and this is going to refresh for me. Now you may be asking, well, what is this used for? It's used to track what's due out of my department, and this is real time. So if somebody were to complete one of these steps, this case would fall off of this list. So if we go to case number 1090, step 2 is due today. So let's look at how we would change that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the order management module for just a moment. I'm going to bounce out to the dashboard here, or the launch pad, and whoop, let me go in as another user here. Let me do this a little differently. So rather than logging in as Marcus, I'll log in as lab owner. And we're going to go into what we call the employee interface. So the employee interface is designed for employees to use to access the system. They don't have access to financials. They don't have access to account information. And I'm going to identify myself as Timmy the technician. I'll put my PIN number in. And I think the case we were interested in was 1090. So I'm going to barcode that, or I'm going to type it in, either one I want to do there. It's going to pull up this case, load the schedule. So I can see that I can't do step 4 because I'm not set up to do that, but I can complete step 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to complete step 2 on that, on 1090. And that's the step right there. So now when this refreshes, you'll notice that 1090 is no longer on that list. So as a manager or as someone responsible for moving work through the department, as I see this list get smaller, I know we're getting things done. So that's really what I'd like to see here. Is I want to see the case list get smaller based on what we have to do. Now, if you don't look at step 1 and 2, you're responsible for something else. You can come in here and specify what you are managing or what you are monitoring. So maybe step 4 represents shipping. So we want to see, well, which cases are we shipping today? So here are the cases that need to go out, or at least have step 4 to be required. And again, I want to point out that these steps are defined by you. We don't tell you they have to be called 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's whatever you'd like to use. If it's model, contour, milling, design, printing, those steps are all customizable by yourself. A couple other things. There's a time clock built in here. They can see how many units they've completed when they refresh this. They can have access to notes and notes and preferences in the case. If there are any files associated, if there are any STLs or images or anything else, the technicians can access those here. All right, so back to the launch pad here. So we've talked about the order management, the employee interface, the lab dashboard. We'll go back into order management. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some reporting. As far as managing cases, we have several reports that you can use. We have units in, units received in range, So if you're interested in seeing, what has come in this week, or you want to evaluate, projected loads, you can run this report and see by department what has been entered, how many of them were remake units, what were the net, results of that. That's one way to just kind of get a snapshot of what's come in. You also have cases by ship date. So if you want to run a report for today to see what's shipping, this is broken down by department. I can see the order, who it's going to, the status is currently in production, and that mirrors the in production order on hold. So if you have a case that's supposed to ship today and you see it on hold, you may have an issue you want to resolve. Ideally, you would see invoiced on all of these, or at least be able to find out why it's not invoiced. And there are several other reports. We have a delivery report. Sales reports are also found in here, invoice registers. But as this webinar is about case management and managing workflows, that's what I really want to focus on today. We have other webinars coming up that we get more into scheduling. We get into the integration with EasyRx and VisualDLP, EasyRx being our practice-facing prescription management platform. So what I'd like to do is, I haven't seen any questions pop up, but does anyone have anything they want to ask, or like me to go back and look at or elaborate on? Okay. Quiet crowd. And you're welcome to just type the question if you have one. Okay, so a couple other little things I'll wrap up with. We do have a calendar where you can come in and look at, by step, by activity. You can see how many units are scheduled on a particular day. And this is helpful for just looking at the load and then figuring out which cases are being done. So we have step 1 is what I've selected. So I can see I have 14 units of step 1 due on the 8th. I have 4 units of step 1 due today. And so you can look forward or backward to see what your loads were, and then by activity. So that gives you another way to look at production and monitoring the cases that are coming in and leaving. Again, and I think I'll reiterate this, the activities, step 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all defined by you. You can go in and set up things such as the cost associated with these steps. So here's step 1. I can add items here, cost items that will be transferred over to the cost per unit. So if you want to monitor how much it's costing you to do these activities, you can set that up, as well as under the employee record. So if I were to go to Timmy the technician, I see, Timmy has an hourly rate of $1. We're not paying Timmy enough, apparently. And here are the activities he can do, step 1, 2, and 3. So there is the data exists here for us to measure how much we're paying for labor and how much these materials and activities are costing us. So you can calculate what your costs are associated with the production you're doing. Okay, I've got about 5 minutes that I budgeted for questions, so I hope there's some good ones out there. Anybody? Okay. Well, I will say that this webinar is being recorded. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I'll make this available for everyone to access if you'd like to watch it again, review it, share it with your colleagues. That'll be available in the next day or so, and we'll email you all that link, everyone who registered, so you have that. So, I want to thank everyone for joining today. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'd be happy to do another demo, elaborate on anything you saw today. And we look forward to having you on the next webinar. So please register for that. We're going to go into other areas of the software. Okay. All right. And with that, we will end the recording.